I just wanted to chit chat with you guys and talk about my experience being a 6-time egg donor. I am retired. I will never donate my eggs again, but I will say it was so fun, such a blessing. And even though I don't know any of the families personally, I'm really glad that I did it and able to help so many people out there. So let's talk about why I even got into egg donation to begin with. And if you don't know what an egg donor is, because I know there's people who are like, what is that? I basically gave my eggs to people who were not able to carry or have babies on their own, whether the mom's eggs were not good, but she could still carry the baby, or to gay couples, lesbian couples who need surrogates. They were able to use my egg to create an embryo. So yeah, I have helped 6 different families, and I do get the question a lot, you know, how many eggs do I have out there? Well, with each egg donation, like I mentioned, I've done it 6 times. With each egg donation, they took about 30 to 60 eggs. That is a lot. Now, not all of those eggs will survive. I think they say out of all the eggs that they took, I think they said about 20 to 10 will actually survive, which is crazy to think about. You know, they took a lot and only so many will survive, but that is still a lot. So I'm guessing frozen eggs that, you know, with my DNA, probably about 200, maybe a little less. You know, I used to think it was like 500, but once I've known how many die during the process, yeah, I don't think it's that many. And also I do know out of the 6 people that I've helped, 3 babies were born, and I feel like some of them I you know, have no clue if any child was born or not, but I feel in my heart there's at least 5 or 6 babies that came from my DNA. So it is really crazy to think about, especially as I'm getting older, knowing that there's little half mini-me's out there and living totally different lives, living in different parts of the country or world. And you know, I do hope as time goes on that I will be contacted in the future by at least one of them, and just, you know, to see how their lives are, and just, it makes me really, really happy. But I do know a lot of people want to have a very private life. And again, they're not my children. I don't feel like my eggs, like that, these are my babies, but they are still half of my DNA. So it is very interesting. With that being said, I donated, like I said, all over, from Miami, Chicago, California, and even Paris, France, which is wild to think about. But yeah, I'm retired, I'm done. So let's get into why I even became an egg donor. So it actually started a long time ago. It feels like forever ago now. Back in 2015, I was on Craigslist. I was, you know, OG Craigslist before they had all these apps where you can sell stuff. But I was trying to sell furniture, and I went on Craigslist just trying to post something and hopefully it would sell. And I was just scrolling through Craigslist and came across an advertisement that said you can get up to $10,000 for selling your eggs. And of course, when you see money, you're probably like, what is this? So I clicked on it. Now it did take me to this bogus website, but I was like, egg donation, what exactly is that? So when I really want to research something, or like, I get obsessed. Like literally, I want to know everything. Like, I'm just like that. Like, if there's a true crime case that I'm hooked on, I'm gonna be Googling it, researching it. You know, recently we went to go see Elvis Presley, his home in Memphis, and once we got there, I didn't really know much about him, and then when we left, I was like, for 2 days researching all about him, and got as much information that, you know, people for years have been probably studying, learning about his life. But yeah, I just am like that. I will spend, you know, hours and hours just reading. So when I, read about being an egg donor, I spent like literally 3 days trying to understand what it is. And I was like, this seems very interesting. And, a lot of people now know that there's so many people who struggle with infertility, but back then it wasn't something people talked a lot about, and it wasn't really well known. So I just was like, you know what, let's see what this is about. I signed up for an agency in Colorado, and unfortunately they're no longer around, but because that's where I was living at the time. And back then you would talk to someone and they would have multiple people on the call. So there was like 8 different people interested in becoming an egg donor, which was actually really fun, getting to know different people and seeing why all of us were interested in being an egg donor. But I will say most of us were like, what's this $10,000? And by the way, a lot of agencies don't start you off at $10,000. That's how they promote it, to get people to want to sign up. But yeah, so, once people started realizing what egg donation really was, there's a lot of people who were like, no, I probably don't want to do it. But I really felt in my heart I would be a good egg donor, but I didn't have kids then, and I still just didn't fully understand the process. So I ended up filling out the long application. The application is still long, but that's just because they want to know your history, medical history, your family, your life, all of that fun stuff. And they put my profile up, but I wasn't a very high demand egg donor, especially since it was a smaller agency, and I didn't get chosen for like 6 months. So when they called me and they were like, hey, your profile is still up, but we actually want to send you to a bigger egg donation company that has more people that you'll probably get chosen within a month or so. Would you like to do that? At the time I was just like, no, I don't think I want to be an egg donor now, because I almost forgot about it. I actually did forget about it. But yeah, so at that time I was like, no. So fast forward, I was working at a hospital. I was working the night shift, and I got kind of tired of working nights. So I left my job and I became a nanny again. And I actually worked for a mom who had her children through an egg donor, which is really crazy. Like, talking about like a, universal sign or a God sign. I was like, that is so weird, because I was thinking of becoming an egg donor, and then she used an egg donor to have her kids. But the way she loved them, and they seriously looked like her kids. Like, you could never tell that, it wasn't really like DNA, like it wasn't really hers, but it is hers. So those are her kids. But yeah, it was a really wild experience, and I love those kids. They are so sweet and adorable. But yeah, I was like, I asked her how she felt about it, and then, they were just very happy. They didn't actually know the egg donor personally, but just hearing her story, it made me like want to become an egg donor again. But I had a lot of things happen throughout that time. Me and my boyfriend were just traveling here and there. We were living life, and I just kept pushing it to the side. So I signed up again for a different agency, and when the process was going to start, I get off birth control and then I get pregnant. And of course, my son is a miracle baby. I always say he's my angel. Literally, God gave me him because he is a real human angel. I love him. But yeah, so get pregnant with him. I couldn't donate my eggs to the family, and luckily I wasn't too far in the process. Like, no signing paperwork, nothing like that. They just wanted me to get on birth control, or get off birth control for a month, and I got pregnant. So I always kept it in the back of my head, being an egg donor, because I was just so ready. And then going through the whole pregnancy, having my son, and realizing how you know, children are such a blessing and it's such a beautiful experience, and a lot of people can't experience that. I always kept that in the back of my head. So when my son was about, I think he was like 6 months old, I then applied for ConceiveAbilities. I've talked about them in the past in my videos. They were the first people I worked with. From the time of 2017 all the way until 2021, I donated my eggs 6 times through the last 5 to 6 years. And each time, you know, place that I went was very different. Agencies are very different. Luckily, every agency that I worked with after Chicago was wonderful. You know, the recovery was different. Sometimes it was easier than other times. I do know the biggest reason why I stopped donating my eggs was I did get ovarian hyperstimulation. I just, you know, I had a lot of swelling, and they took like, I think it was close to 60 eggs for my very last donation, which is wild to think about. But I also knew that was going to be my very last time. And that was in Miami. Or no, it wasn't Miami, it was California. California was the last place I donated my eggs, and yeah, it was an experience, that's for sure. So like I said, I donated my eggs 6 times. I've donated in Chicago, California, Miami, Florida, North Carolina, Maryland, and Paris, France. Wild, right? Like it's so cool to think about, but yeah, that's why I'm like, it will be so interesting to see if one day any of them contact me. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about every place I donated, because it would just be like a forever long video. So like I said, I'm a retired egg donor. It's so cool to think about all the families I helped, the locations that I've been to, and how different, you know, their lives are, and it's just wonderful. I'm just so happy I did it. So a question I do get asked a lot is what happens to the eggs once, you know, they take them, and, you know, do I have any rights to them? So I don't. You know, if I ever run into any fertility issues, I have no rights to the eggs that are frozen. What usually happens is the parents decide what happens to them. So whether they want to keep the eggs to themselves and have, you know, 3 to 5 kids, they can, or when they're done having children, they can donate the eggs to another family in need. I also, with some agencies, I didn't want them to just discard the eggs, so science can do studies on my eggs if they chose to. So yeah, there's multiple things that they can do with the eggs. Not all clinics will just discard them, but yeah, that's also very interesting to think about, and what kind of research they could be doing. Hopefully science isn't going to make like humans from me that are half alien. Just kidding, but I do think weird thoughts like that. Like, I mean, if science are doing studies on people's eggs, what can they do with half of your DNA? Probably lots of weird, crazy stuff. But yeah, so I also get questions a lot like, you know, what are my thoughts with having half my DNA out there, and, you know, how to explain to people who may not understand. You know, some people feel like I gave up children. They really feel like I surrendered a child of mine, which is kind of weird. I really truly feel in my heart that, you know, the eggs that I gave to these people, they really wanted a child. You know, to have to find an egg donor is a lot, and I'm sure that they are wonderful parents, and that's their child. I don't see it any other way. I do hear some comments from people that are like, how could you give your egg away? Or, don't you miss your child? Like, I get weird things like that. Some people just don't really understand it that well. But I will say, to me, they're not my child, and I will always view it that way. Just like when you give blood or donate blood, you're helping someone, you're saving their life. I really feel like I gave a blessing to people. And I do know, like, I do believe in God. You know, I'm very spiritual, but I mostly follow like the Christian religion. And I feel like that being an egg donor and helping a family is a blessing, is an amazing thing. So I do hear from time to time that there's people who say they would do it, but they don't think it's, you know, biblically right, or, you know, they don't feel that it's right to help gay couples, things like that. You know, I feel like if you wanted to be an egg donor, you have the choice to help different families. You don't have to help certain people. But to me, whether it's same sex or whoever just really wanted a child, I feel like either way, it's a blessing. So that's just my view on it. So please be nice in the comments. But yeah, so I feel like being an egg donor also matured me in a lot of ways, and it made me learn so much about the other side of like IVF and what other people go through. And as a woman, we don't know what could happen to our bodies, and I feel like every woman should be able to get tested, you know, especially when you're around hitting 21, to see where you stand for the future of your fertility. But of course, that costs a lot of money, and you know, it's just, a lot of people go through a lot of things, unfortunately. So I think surrogacy and egg donation is so wonderful, in my opinion. And I think that if you want to do it and you're nervous about it, you know, one time definitely is not going to hurt you. And I wouldn't let other people's opinions stop you for doing something amazing. I know that there's a lot of agencies that are in very high demand. Now, with that being said, there is risk to anything you do, and I wouldn't just do things for the money. The money definitely was nice. You know, I've been able to pay off things. I bought, you know, cars, and, you know, it's helped me save money. You know, there's benefits financially to doing it, but also you are putting your life at risk. You're taking all these medication, and egg donation and even surrogacy is, you know, new in the medical field. Like when I went to the ER to figure out what was going on when I had ovarian hyperstimulation, my doctor was a little bit confused. He didn't even really understand ovarian hyperstimulation. And he had to call my doctor all the way in California to figure out, you know, what is this? So it's still new. Not everyone understands it, knows about it. So you got to keep that in mind. And you also need to remember to keep your health first in doing something like this. So I have no regrets being an egg donor. I honestly loved all my journeys. There, of course, was ups and downs, medications, needles, none of that bothered me at all. And I truly feel like it was a big blessing for not only me, but definitely for the families. It will be interesting to see in the future if any of the children that came from me contact me. It'd be really neat, actually. But yeah, so that's just my thoughts. That was my journey. If you guys have any other question on egg donation, let me know down below. To kind of update you guys with, I know it's been a while since I've been on YouTube, with the surrogacy journey, there is 2 agencies that I am working with, and I do have to choose one of them. I'm not going to give any names yet, but there's 2 that are not ConceiveAbilities, but I feel very comfortable and confident with. I just need to see which one I feel the most safest with, but both of them totally understand that I want to wait till October, and So I'll probably be pregnant in 8 months from now, which seems like forever, but to me, time goes super fast. But yeah, I'm really excited for the journey. But like I said, we're just waiting on medical, and I just need to choose which one I want to work with. So that is all for now, you guys. Drink your water, stay hydrated, be happy, and I will see you guys in another video. Take care. Bye.